Testing. You ready to start rapping?
Everybody say chicken.
1 and 2, right?
Do I sound
Yeah,
good?
just 1 and 2.
Okay. Yeah. See levels.
Levels.
Do I sound good? Do I look good?
Check.
Check.
Attractiveness check. How do I look?
Scale of 1 to 10, please.
Which ones are which ones?
What do you mean?
1.
2 is center, John. 1 is both of us, both John and I, or both Mark and I.
Mark E. Mark.
Mark
Marky Mark.
And the Funky Bunch.
The funky ones.
Chicken legs.
Chicken legs.
Chicken legs.
So has the show officially started, or?
I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
I would say so.
Recording.
We're recording. and
B-roll.
That'll get put in there. So don't talk about anything you wouldn't want to talk about, John.
Can we talk about how your daughter bullies me?
Yes. Let that be publicly known.
PSA.
The second I walk in, she goes, "Chicken legs." She makes fun of my
Yes.
skinny legs.
It's
John
not-
gets verbally harassed by a 3-year-old, and he lets it happen.
And there's more.
It's
She-
just negative reinforcement.
She says, "We're
Yeah,
making
works.
pancakes and you don't get any." It gets worse.
So there's emotional trauma. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
I didn't realize this would be like a psychology session.
I didn't know. I'm not certified in psychology.
Therapy session.
I just need to get this off my chest.
Do you want us to hold you?
No, that's all right. You can cry on Mark's shoulder, not mine.
Yeah, we both close enough.
I don't have any sympathy.
Yes, Mark, not that Mark. Just to clarify.
Mark C or Mark K.
So, welcome to the Strawcast. This episode is called 2.5 Men. I'll let you figure that out.
It's messed up. It's my skinny legs. I work my legs out. They just don't grow. It's messed up.
He also doesn't eat, so.
Yeah, well, that's
Spinach
a big
pies.
problem.
I think Mark Ripito says, unless you're like, if you're a man and you're not over 200 pounds, you're not a
Well, all of us are not over 200
I'm getting
pounds.
there. We're getting
Yeah.
there. I feel like at this point, I might as well just get to 200 just to see what it feels like.
I was at 198 and I felt like shit. So
Yeah. Was that when you were swimming?
no, I was 198 last time we did
Yeah.
that 20 rep back squat program, and then we went swimming and I felt like a cinder block,
Yeah, I don't
like a true bolt dolphin, like just
both dolphin.
yeah.
So tick.
Sinking
I
like a
just
rock.
sank to the bottom of the pool. I couldn't make my way to the surface. It was really really bad.
Well, I mean, it's all the rage now on social media to be thick anyways, so I think we're on trend.
I guess so. Trend or trend?
Trend.
Trend.
John might be on trend. Who knows?
What is trend? I don't even know.
Trend balloon?
Sure.
I'm going to show my ignorance by saying I don't know. I really
Some
don't.
kind of steroid that
It
these
is.
kids like to do now.
I don't know what it does
Listen.
exactly.
None of these kids know what the real, like the original formula of Jack 3D was like, all right? I do.
You mean besides containing meth?
Yeah. Hey, if it worked really well, obviously they had to ban it. Communists.
Oh, before we get
Yeah.
too far along, we have stuff. We have merch
Yeah.
that we're pumping out.
That
We got-
I'm
we have-
not drinking out of.
Yeah. You already drank all that stuff.
Yeah.
We have shirts.
Oh, you're trying to show your shit.
Yeah. I'll put up like a little posty thing.
Little-
like a
little
better
link.
video to show.
Yeah. But
Because, we need equipment and it'd be nice. Like, Christmas is coming, the holidays are expensive, I have a child, Mark's trying to get big, John needs to get bigger legs.
I need more food.
Whatever you can
Yeah.
do to help this child.
I'm accepting
whatever
donations, please.
you can do to help a child in need.
For only pennies a day.
My diet consists of spinach pie, spanakopita, usually twice a day, and water. That's it.
Not
Water,
gonna lie
coffee.
though. Not gonna lie. It is pretty good. His spinach pies are pretty good. He just needs to eat like about 10 more of those a day.
Yep. But today's show we wanted to bring John on for, he's been around Sarasota for a while, and he's written a book. He's competed in OCR and Strongman.
Yes, and Ninja
So-
Warrior.
And what?
Ninja Warrior.
And Ninja Warrior.
Not the American Ninja Warrior, but competition.
Yeah. So we'll talk about your athletic background, your mindset and training, and we'll get going.
I like
from
that you
there.
said that
Yeah.
he's been around Sarasota.
Been around Sarasota.
Grew up here, know a lot of people, and have a lot of good friends that I've met over the years for sure. For sure.
Awesome. So like, how'd you get started in with your athletic career? Like,
So
Dive down.
growing up, I was always active. So as a kid, running, climbing, I was always outside. But then I started lifting weights when I was 16,
okay.
and I couldn't afford a personal trainer. So
Yeah.
I would just learn on my own. I'd Google stuff, research as much as I could online.
Okay.
A lot of conflicting resources, and then just trial and error. I'd ask people at the gym. I'd be like, "Excuse me, what are you doing?" And they'd
Yeah.
explain. So over the years, I learned the hard way. So I had good strength gains, but at the same time, it led to imbalances. So I had iliotibial
Yeah,
band syndrome.
These kids these days, like they have all the cheat codes now. You know?
No, they
Like,
do.
do.
We all had to do
do.
it through trial and error. So
Yeah.
A lot of injuries, a lot of imbalances. Upper cross syndrome, so internal rotation. At one point, my shoulder would crack and pop when I would lift it.
Keep talking.
Separated shoulders. So everything from, just all kinds of injuries. The list goes on. Plantar fasciitis.
Ugh.
And
What else you got going on?
are we still going?
Yeah.
Okay. Over the years I learned the hard way. Got into, I always loved cross training. So I tried different routines like powerlifting. I tried, all kinds of training. But ultimately I came back to cross training with the rise of obstacle course races. That was where I found my initial passion. So jumped into Spartan races, Savage races, all kinds of competitions. And I started realizing that my love for lifting heavy and running, I could combine it. So that took a lot of trial and error, and I started pursuing the credentials as a personal trainer.
Yeah.
So my CPT CAFS, which is from the Gray Institute, it's more for physical therapists.
Yeah.
Then PES, Performance Enhancement Specialist. The FMT certification, a hybrid cert called Complete Human Performance from Alex Viata, hybrid athlete.
Okay. Yeah.
So all kinds of different certs, and started applying that to training. And then I started performing better. So I started getting top 3 or top 5 or 8th out of the 1,200 at the Spartan. Jumped into strongman competitions and Ninja Warrior. So my point is I'm trying to brand myself as a hybrid athlete.
Yeah.
And that supports my.
And I feel like that's like the route to go for his. Like my idea of like a complete athlete is someone who can do everything. So like that's why CrossFit was so intriguing to me, and that's why like high performance is so intriguing to me. Like I want to be able to, obviously look good, but be able to run, jump, swim, lift, carry, a body up a mountain if I have to, like that kind of stuff. Like that, be functional. Like I've always said that there's no reason for me to be 250 pounds and not be able to run a mile. Like it's just So. I can be strong as a house, but like, if I can't run or do anything like that, like then there's no point of me being called an athlete. You're just a strong person,
No, I agree.
So that's really cool, and like the way that you transition from different certs and helped you perform better is really interesting as well. So let's talk about like some of your training because you went from OCR to strongman, and how the training differs.
I basically do the same training, but also do specialization. So I'll do literally same training across the board, but when it comes closer to a competition, I'll start to specialize.
Okay.
So I'll do my hybrid training. It's heavy lifting in the early in the week, and then more endurance training, slow twitch towards the end of the week. So different energy systems help you recover more.
Yeah.
So Monday, for example, I'll do a heavy push day.
Okay.
So maximum weight I break it down into movements. So the body only does a horizontal push, horizontal pull, vertical push, vertical pull, elbow extension, elbow flexion. Your core does a flexion, rotation, and anti-rotation, legs hip dominant or knee dominant. So I break that up into a split routine, push, pull, and legs. So I'll do heavy push, heavy pull, heavy legs, rest mobility day. Then conditioning day, either I'll do upper body and then lower body, or I'll just combine it, full body conditioning, and then more into like the endurance side. And within that, I'll do cardio, same thing. So my heavy push day, heavy pull, I'll do sprint work, heavy push day.
That'll benefit the
fast twitch.
Fast twitch. Yeah.
Same energy system. So heavy push, sprint work. Then Tuesday, heavy pull, interval training for that active recovery, helping you recover, from that lactic threshold. Then Wednesday, I'll do heavy legs, and then something functional or like a tempo run. Then rest day, mobility day, and then Thursday, conditioning. And I'll throw in another run, more maybe like a 5K. Saturday or Sunday, I'll do steady state, maybe like 6 miles, 7 miles steady state. Recently, I took some time off to fix my foot, but I'm gonna get right back into that. But then when it comes closer to the strongman stuff, I'd incorporate a little bit less running and a little bit more of the atlas stones or practicing the actual lifts.
Okay.
And it's worked well.
Yeah, the more of the technique is obviously like with the strongman equipment, like it's all foreign to a lot of people, and if you don't have the right technique, you're gonna obviously get yourself injured.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
So
yeah. For sure.
I
there's
think
a lot of
sports
technique.
specific.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sports specific.
Yeah.
I think one of the most common things that people think is you and I had a conversation about this, and a lot of trainers tend to sell this is that people say that training kids on a deadlift is going to make them better at, say, like playing football. But the thing is, there's nothing that's going to make you as good at football than playing football. There's nothing that's going to get you as good at doing strongman, like training strongman is going to teach you.
No, I agree.
So you have to be sport specific because there are just specific demands of that sport that you have to attend to. So it's cool that you do have that.
Yeah. I think there's definitely correlations to exercises that benefit certain sports. Like you said, like the example you used was football. I was telling Trey, the athlete I train, it's like your trap bar deadlift has a direct correlation to how fast you're going to be.
Yeah.
So
it applies more functionally.
more functionality. How much weight you could press through your whole foot is going to translate to how much force you can put on a sprint.
Yeah.
So everything correlates. I told him, it's like front squats are going to be more beneficial to you athletically than a back squat would. There's more translation onto the field. And, I think all athletes, whether you're all go from a swimmer to a football player, you guys should be doing thrusters. Change of energy systems from lower body to upper body.
Yeah.
So like things like that. Even if it's like light thrusters or heavy thrusters, like the change of momentum, change of body energies from lower body to upper body has numerous benefits, and it's a full body movement, the thruster.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
But that's all fits into athletics as well. So it's really all interesting. That's why we're here. We're talking about all these
The specificity.
specificities and these quirky nerd out about exercise science and sports and stuff like that. So,
And I like to separate components where all my catchphrase for my way of training is maximize movements. So separate components, energy systems, and then bring it together. So you integrate it to specialize because the specificity of applied said specific adaptations of imposed demands. I was having a hard time getting out. A lot of caffeine today.
There's nothing wrong with that. I'm actually drinking a cold brew mimosa. I love it.
Cold brew mimosa. You're telling me about that. But so it's the principle of set. So specific adaptation to imposed demands. Got it. But anyways, that applies. So but I like to separate components before specializing. So maximize movement. So I'd maximize my horizontal press, get as strong as possible in dumbbell chest press or bench press, even though it's not as functional. You can still maximally load that. Horizontal pull, maximal weight, so 5x5. Same thing, vertical press, vertical pull, same every movement. And then you take that and you've reached a new strength level, and also your nervous system is more efficient. So you have the neurological side. And then with the further end of the week, as you approach the end of the week with the conditioning, you get more slow twitch, more mitochondria in your muscles, just more energy efficient. And then when you bring it together for the competition, you're on a different level. Instead of combining it together, that's the only thing I don't like as much about CrossFit is it's a lot of blended.
Yeah.
Where if I were to do CrossFit, I get weaker.
Yeah.
Because
that's true. 'Cause
it's too integrated.
Yeah. If you get the right coach programming for CrossFit, because I've been doing CrossFit for almost 7 years now, and the way because I've been in sports for forever, so I'll take it back to when I swam. Like when I swam in high school and college, like we every Friday was Fast Friday, so that was our mock race day.
Okay.
Monday, you knew you were gonna get your ass kicked on Monday because it was just straight endurance, the whole practice. Tuesday was more technique Tuesdays. Wednesday was you used your week events, so you practiced your week events. Thursday, if you weren't broken from Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, the double practices that you had, Thursday was your recovery day. Friday was Fast Friday. Saturday, unless you had a meet on Saturday. So that's how the flow of practice went, and you pretty much knew what you were getting into every week. Now with CrossFit, if you have good coach,
You're right.
strength-wise, that Monday is probably going to be a heavy back squat day. Maximize strength.
Yeah.
Back squats are, just universally a strong lift for every athlete. Tuesday was more gymnastic work. Wednesday was another kind of heavy lift with a very long metcon, kind of like metabolic conditioning. And then Thursday is known in CrossFit as a recovery day. You don't work out that day. And then Friday you have either a fun Friday or like a brute strength has these brute Fridays, so these brutal Friday workouts. So it's just kind of maximizing different energy systems and working different things. So like the programming is very important, and I think with you maximize your programming to the fullest. Like your body the best, and this is what works for you, and you pretty much crack the code on how to maximize your physical and human potential. So I think that's really important for a lot of athletes to understand. And like it's like you said, it takes a lot of trial and error, and I'm still playing around with a lot of my programs. So, but it's hearing from what you do is giving me ideas of what I can use in my training.
Good.
So
Good. And to add on that, you're right. It depends on the CrossFit programming because, for example, Henry is the fittest dude I've ever met, and also my friend Zach, who also they just do CrossFit.
Yeah.
So it depends on the programming. You're right. So that's true.
Yeah.
So I think you touched on it with the SAID principle, and one thing I do want to ask Mark is that when whoever it was that was coaching you through CrossFit, was there a cycle where they would repeat the same movements from week to week?
Depending on Matt Saylor, we all know Matt. He used to do the program at RFS, and he, depending on what was going on, so like if Murph was coming up, he would program more pull-ups, push-ups, air squats, longer runs till we got to Murph.
Yeah.
And then if we were on say now, it's bulking season, air quotes bulking season, we would do more heavy compound movements, probably a little more higher rep ranges. Like right now, for me right now personally, I'm repeating my 20 rep back squat cycle.
Yeah.
So that would be something that he would probably do during this time period, and then 8-week cycle, and then get ready for what the next thing would be, which would be the Open, because the Open is going to be in February, I think, or January. I haven't kept up yet. I haven't done the Open in 2 years. So
yeah.
But depending on what event or what holiday is coming up, or a goal that's coming up, is what you would prepare for. So training specifically that's I think every sport does that too, not just just CrossFit, but for individuals, for me, I don't really compete anymore, but I have goals I want to hit, and I knew that I needed to change out of my weightlifting cycle because I hit my PRs probably a little too earlier than I wanted, and then I tried to repeat the same program, and I was just not performing as well. My lifts were all over the place. My snatch would go up, and my cleans would go down, when previously they were the opposite. And then I wasn't hitting the same numbers, so I was like, you know what? Stop Olympic lifting completely.
Yeah.
Work on just 20 reps back squat, add 5 pounds each session. 12 reps of deadlifts, add 5 pounds each session. 3 sets of 12 bench press, add 5 pounds each session, and do that 3 times a week. And that's the only things I work on.
Yeah.
So do that for 8 weeks, and then go back to Olympic lifting and see how I do. And I'll probably be just twice as strong, because I'll be hammering those 3 simple movements instead of trying to focus on these 2 movements, and they're very complicated and specific movement patterns. If you're an inch off, you're not going to get a snatch. It's just a lot of pressure mentally, and it's a little mentally draining. So
you're kind of narrowing the focus.
Yeah, just narrowing the focus. Not trying to put as much. And we haven't touched on this mental part, but if you train only 2 movements, it kind of gets consuming.
Yeah.
To where if I don't hit a certain number on this, then I'm the workout's ruined. So just if you have a very broad expectation of what you need to do, it's it's a little more relaxing, a little less anxiety when you go into the workout. Yeah.
Yeah. The reason why I asked that is because even if it's broad, it's still kind of narrow, because you have specific things that you're working on. You're working on, what did you call it? You've got your goals for 2021. You have a name for it.
Oh, Project Pegasus?
Project Pegasus.
Yeah.
Can you just quickly describe what Project Pegasus is?
Only 2 people so far have completed the first 2 tasks of it. And I even listened to Chasing Excellence podcast with Ben Bergeron, and he even said the 3rd one's kind of obsolete. But it's basically squat 500 pounds, run a sub 5-minute mile in the same day, and then 30 muscle ups unbroken. Ben Bergeron added, like, you know, what would be more impressive than 30 muscle ups unbroken would be 50 strict handstand push-ups unbroken. So now that he said that, I was like, well, screw the muscle ups, you know, like, because I did, you know, without trying, I did 12, you know, unbroken. I was like, oh, that's not too far away from 15.
Yeah.
If I can get to 15, I can get to 20, and that's my mindset. So
True.
I was like, you know, 50 strict handstand push-ups. That seems, you know, pretty challenging. So that'd be really interesting to try. And then obviously, there's a fine line between, you know, well, not a fine line, but you have to squat 500 pounds, but you also have to be agile and light enough to run a sub 5-minute mile. So basically, I have to make myself into Clydesdale or a thoroughbred horse to accomplish this goal. Which, you know, it seems, you know, I'm excited for it. I'm going to enjoy the process.
Well,
so.
that's kind of what that's kind of what John has done, and it's interesting watching the stuff you do with running. Is you do the OCRs and everything. What's the general distance on like a typical OCR?
Yeah.
There's for savage races or Spartan races, there's typically two. There's the first one, the Blitz, or the Spartan Sprint, which is 3 to 5 miles.
Okay.
More towards 3, about 3 to 4 miles. Then the other one's gonna be about 7 miles, 7 or 8.
Okay.
So depending on which one you do, I've been focusing more on the shorter one just because I'm more power based naturally. So fast twitch comes easier for me. But the other one is more competitive, obviously. And the prize money for a savage race is higher, and it's more expensive to sign up. But
it usually always is. So,
but yeah, so it varies. But then again, if you can run, if you do that steady state, you just increase the distance, your general work capacity. And then you can easily do the second one the same as you could with the Blitz, the shorter distance. So
the reason why I'm asking this is because I always want to try to make what we're talking about as nerds and kind of break it down for people so they understand. This principle of set is really good. It's part of the reason why John has sort of developed his program around New Exist is that he didn't like what he was seeing in CrossFit, and I understand that the reason why, for the general practitioner of CrossFit, just, you know, your average mom or dad who goes into CrossFit like in the morning, the problem with it is there's not enough specificity and there's not enough like progressive overload. And what ends up happening is you get, if you start off coming off the street, you get thrown in the middle of an Olympic weightlifting cycle that maybe lasts a week, and then you don't get any specificity, any like actual like technique, and you don't develop any specificity around that actual lift, and then you move on to something else the next week. And while it really doesn't matter for the average general population, it matters for us because we have very specific goals, and even with our very broad goals, they're still very narrow. The problem with most people is that really it's a matter of injury prevention and keeping you safe. So I mean, this is why people kind of CrossFit is such a whipping boy for a lot of people, because if you're in the bodybuilding space, you have a very specific focus on bodybuilding. If you're powerlifting space, you have a specific focus on powerlifting, and obviously if you're in OCR or strongman space, you have very specific focuses. And what's cool about what John's doing is that there's actually the two worlds have sort of collided, or the three worlds between power.
I mean, he's pretty much a hybrid athlete all the way around. So there's a mesh of like 5 worlds colliding. It's almost like the multiverse coming into one. I'm nerding out right now.
And crossover. It's like a multiverse and a crossover. But it's all coming together where he's working endurance. So the thing that I'm most intrigued about is, for the longest time, and this is going to blow your mind, as people grow, their understanding of the world can also evolve. And so don't ever expect the people who just seem to be locked in any specific ideas. And that's the closest that I'm going to scratch on politics. But the reason why I say that is because for me, for the longest time, I was always a 3 to 5 rep guy, because I always wanted to develop power. And having lived in Los Angeles, most people's focus in Los Angeles is they don't want to, a lot of people want to be the next TV star. So TV puts on an extra 10 pounds. The last thing you want to do is really, or the last thing I encourage people to do is do bodybuilding, because it puts on more mass, especially for women. So if you train in a more neurologic 3 to 5 rep space, you get a lot of intensity, and you still get a lot of progress because it's a lot of work. And so calorically it's also very intense, but you don't get the same sarcoplasmic growth, I want to say, as doing like more bodybuilding or anything beyond 6 to 10, 10 to 15 reps. That's why I always avoided that. The thing about CrossFit is it does kind of make you a little beefy.
It's
because
a
there's
lot of
volume.
it's a lot of volume. It's a lot of core. A lot of people don't realize that. Like, you know, you're doing squats, you're doing thrusters, you're doing deadlifts, you're doing clean Olympic lifting. It's all your diaphragm, your abdominals, and your lower back are really being worked every single day. So you obviously, like a lot of CrossFit athletes, especially if you watch the CrossFit Games, a lot of the men and women, you know, they're just very muscular around their chest, their abs, and their back. Like they're all very solid trunks. They all have very solid trunks. So you never see anybody with you don't see like these kind of bodybuilder-esque CrossFit athletes where they have like the curvy figures or whatever like that. Like
and there's nothing wrong with muscle mass as
Yeah.
long as you build the muscle while having the cardio, because you get that perfusion. So if you build the muscle without any cardio, you're not going to have the vascularity to support that muscle.
exactly.
Then when you go running, it's just more oxygen demand. You're just going to be have a hard time with running. But if you do the running, not necessarily the same day, you can do the same day as I do. But as you do the cardio side with training and building that lean muscle, you get that perfusion, that vascularity as the muscle develops. So then it's more oxygenated. So that's really important, because it takes much longer to get that vascularity once you have that muscle developed, as opposed to just developing with it.
Yeah, exactly.
But a lot of people don't maximize their nervous system. So the neurological side, as you talked about, it is important because your body becomes more efficient. You recruit more motor units so you're more explosive. But a lot of people don't ever get in that low rep range, and that maximizes your nervous system. It makes you more efficient. It also, I think it helps overall with just your body awareness and coordination in general.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And having a heavy load on your back, your nervous system is on point because it's got to manage everything. And that helps when it translates directly. Those who don't train in that low rep range and just do mid reps, high reps, they miss out on that benefit, and it gets your joints used to heavier weight, so you're less injury prone as well.
Exactly.
I think
I think that's why I needed the break from just straight Olympic lifting, because I was doing a lot of 5 to 1 rep weights, and I'm getting older as an athlete. Certain things starting to bother me. So like I started getting a little hip shift. My right knee started to bother me. I started getting like jumper's knee, and I was like, I've never had any of these joint issues before. Like, why is it happening now? And I was like, oh, well, I've been on an Olympic weightlifting cycle for almost 16 to 24 weeks now. Maybe I should switch out of it. And then once I started doing the 20 rep cycle, which I've done only for like a week now, no knee pain, no hip shift, nothing. It's just
good.
So I feel great. I've also, because it's November, I've been running. So my goal is like 60 miles this month. So that's 2 miles a day. So November, that's why I have this creepy, porn stash going on. Yeah.
That's good. With the running, I was going to say, a lot of people don't realize the modern running shoe has such a heel lift. It's squishy.
Yeah.
And so it shifts you forward, and oftentimes it forces you to heel strike.
Yeah.
But also it takes away from proprioception. So it's kind of like if you want to protect your eyes from the sun, you wear sunglasses. You don't wear a blindfold.
Yeah.
So wearing the modern running shoes like blindfolding your feet, where you don't have that feedback from your feet, that proprioception from the ground. And that's so important because they actually have done studies where if you take off your
I've been
shoes,
running in these.
Oh, not bad.
These no bulls.
Not bad.
And these are the only shoes I'll ever wear, because I used to be not a Nike athlete, but Florida State had Nike gear. And I hate Nike now. Yeah, the Nike shoes suck. Like, they're the worst. So
those aren't bad. They're minimal drop.
minimal drop. Yeah, like I literally could do everything in these.
You
And
would?
my feet feel fine. I probably wouldn't normally wear the high tops for running, but
True.
make do what you got to do.
Yeah.
So.
But with the minimal, the more proprioception,
Yeah.
it's actually increased cadence. So because you have more feedback from your brain, so your nervous system lets your legs move faster, and you can apply more force. Where if you take a power lifter and you take their shoes off, once their feet get comfortable, oftentimes their lifts shoot up, because before your brain was limiting you, because your brain doesn't know where your feet are. So why is it going to allow maximal exertion? So that feedback from your brain to your feet is so important. But if you there's actually more injuries with running than weightlifting and powerlifting. because of
Yeah.
the modern running shoe. It changes your biomechanics and forces you to heel strike, which shocks your system. It sends a jolt up your knees.
Makes
up
so
your
much
hips.
sense now.
Well,
Makes
the
so
problem
much
about
sense.
it too is that there's just so much misinformation around it. They like the number of people. I mean, I was maybe 21 in the Air Force, and I thought that having like putting on a brace or a knee sleeve is such a common thing for runners. And I like what you said about. I've never heard that before. I like what you said about how if you're in the sun, like you don't want to put on a blindfold, and you don't, and like when you're running, you don't want to basically mute your ability to sense the ground. It's really cool that you put it that way, and it kind of plays into what we're talking about as far as like the technicality or the challenges of CrossFit is that it just, in terms of like developing a neural connection to what it is that you're doing. I think the problem with beginner training is that there's Zumba and there's
so many avenues of fitness.
there's so many different
Yeah.
avenues of fitness, but the biggest intention around them a lot of times is always to make it less boring, because beyond guys like us who have very specific training,
Yeah.
like we get off on what we're trying to do because we have specific numbers that we're trying to hit.
Yeah.
For most people, they're just trying to get healthy.
Yeah.
So then to them, it's like they don't care if they're walking around the block after dinner,
Yeah.
which is one, and that's a nice start, certainly. Or
I think
if
it's beneficial for a lot of people.
It is, it's a
especially
good start.
in nowadays where
Yeah.
obesity is very high in America.
And that's
Politically.
actually why my way of training, I
Yeah.
call it NEUXIST. So NEUXIST. NEU is the neurological side, X is for cross training, IST is kind of like exist in the beginning.
I like it.
But there's 7 components broken in 3 parts. So the average person, doesn't know how to work out, and the way of training that I have, it kind of adapts to everyone, where the end is more specialization. So 7 components. The first component is the mental component, most important. The next section, which is going to be the next 3, so it's going to be your foundation, your fitness foundation. So cardiovascular base, strength base, and flexibility, mobility.
Okay.
So that's your foundation that everyone needs. They need the mental side, and they need that second part of the strength, mobility, flexibility, and the cardio.
I like how you put mental side first.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, most important. It
Yeah.
actually deserves its own section.
Yeah.
Then the final part is more specialization. It's going to be more calisthenics, body movement, more skill learning, and then functional application. So 3 parts. First one's the mental, own section. Second part's fitness foundation, including that mental side. So the 3 parts: strength, mobility, and cardio, endurance. And then the last one is the specialization. So the general public, if they just have that fitness foundation that they work on building, they're good. But then adding on the skill, so learning a new skill over time, constant learning, constant growth, learning how to apply your way of training, the functional application. So applying that in daily life. Like if you're a grandma, for example, and you have a grandson, you have to pick up and turn and put in the car the CAFS course that I took, the one for physical therapists, certification in applied functional science. It spoke specifically about that, and it was very interesting. It's just taking that movement and training that movement. So if you're a grandma who has to pick up their kid, you literally train lifting
up
and
then turning.
to help as your grandson gets older to be able to prevent injuries and be doing that movement more efficiently. So the final section of my hybrid training breakdown is the specialization, the body movement, more body awareness, calisthenics, getting your body through a space, the skill learning, so always learning, as I mentioned, and how to apply your fitness foundation. So the 7 components, and I feel like it's perfect. I just have to finish the first product, which has an educational component because there's a gap in the market there as well. But also I need to fix my lower cross injury and perform on the next level, so I have a lot to prove as well.
I like how you broke it down by using that example of the grandma, because fundamentally the idea behind what I'm trying to do with my primal being is very similar in principle to what you're doing, and it's that taking all of these pretty in-depth, like nerdy principles and applying it day to day, because really 90% of the Gen Pop doesn't give a shit about any of this stuff that we're talking about, and really it's just about having a better quality of life. And so for me, for example, like right now, both Mark and I are playing around with like putting in a lot of mass. Like I'm normally used to competing in the 165 weight class for powerlifting, and Mark, you have to be like live because he's a swimmer. But because of where we are at the moment, we're putting on a lot of weight. And the benefit of that is that, fundamentally for a bodybuilding, it's like, of course you want to put on a lot more mass. It looks more aesthetic and all that stuff. But to make it more applicable, I'm also a nurse. And the thing about extended stays in the hospital is that your one, hospital food sucks.
Yeah.
Sorry, hospitals. But also,
That's a statement. That's not.
it's a statement of fact.
Yeah, it's a statement of fact.
It's what it is.
It's not an opinion.
Unless you're like some like luxury hospital. And then two, extended stays tend to be one of the biggest contributors to people's declining health because you don't have enough protein stores. And muscles actually serve as a very potent protein source. It's not just aesthetic. So actually, as you get older, the more muscle mass you can accumulate as you get into your older years, the more protein that you can potentially have. Because just in case you break a hip, because you don't have the proprioception and a neurological connection to your body to be able to actually move in space properly, one day you might dislocate a hip, you'll have an extended stay in the hospital, you have to eat shitty hospital food, and your body mass will go down, and your health will go down because you don't have the essential building blocks to produce the hormones and things that you need to be to recover properly. And so that's why putting on muscle mass is not just about aesthetics. And learning all these neurological things and understanding these principles is not just about being strong or showing off on Instagram or being able to like be cool amongst your nerdy powerlifting or CrossFit or weightlifting or what have you friends. It's about more than that, and that's sort of why that's why I always want to sort of be the Rosetta Stone between the nerdy conversation and then the practical application to you. And I like what John's doing in developing what he's doing with New Exist. It's taken a lot of time because he's got a lot of things on his plate. He's also trying to prove the concepts himself. But I mean, I think that's kind of an indication of a good trainer because most trainers just kind of focus on get bigger.
Yeah.
Get stronger.
Yeah.
Like why?
Yeah.
Like what does that matter to me?
Exactly.
As just a 45-year-old.
They don't really explain. Like I
mother
mean,
of three.
even when I was swimming, like they never explained. It's like why do I need to get faster? Why am I doing a zillion pull-ups after practice? Like I don't understand. They're just like, well, it's gonna help you swim faster, but why?
Yeah.
So they never really explain that stuff. So now that I'm older, now I understand the science behind why we do certain movement patterns. It all makes sense now.
Yeah.
So.
And you reap the benefits of it.
Yep.
I'm kind of wrapping up here because we got some things to do, and John's gonna kind of like tapering off his energetic levels. John has like about a 20-minute like human interaction.
Human interaction.
I'm more introverted.
Quota.
My time is running out. Start to crash.
And so if he's ever on your show, he's gonna put that on his rider. He also wants just the green M&Ms.
No.
The green. He doesn't want anything else.
None of the other
Don't call him chicken legs.
Do not call him
Don't
chicken legs.
call him chicken legs.
Unless it's in the privacy of like pre-show. But yeah, I talk about all this stuff because I mean the reason why we bring a lot of stuff to you guys is it's not just about being strong and looking cool and like doing superhuman feats. It's all within everybody's reach. But beyond that, it's like most of your new trainers are gonna be like, I just need you to get stronger, Betty. I just need you to like do more squats. Like, why are you doing more squats? And unfortunately, not enough newer trainers, because they're new, understand these principles. And it's not until you get to later on when you get injured or you have issues that come up from your just learning over time, or a mix of those two. Like I always thought sports and training was like sort of a blockhead thing, and now I find myself diving deeper and deeper into it. Because it does benefit you in the long run and gives you a greater quality of life. Find something that you're gonna focus on. It's like if watching John helps you learn to be able to climb a tree so that you can chase your grandkids when you're older, or swim with them the way that like Mark can, then let that be the thing that guides you forward instead of just like, I'm gonna learn how to back squat 500 million pounds. Because that stuff is cool, but it really doesn't serve you.
No.
Do you have any final words and where people can reach you?
Yes. My main website is johnsimos.com, so JONSIMOS. If you're hungry, get your greekfood.com.
He does a lot of things.
And what is this?
Oh, it's my book.
Oh, he
What
wrote
a
a book.
coincidence.
What a coincidence. He's an author. What?
If you need to, if you feel like taking a road trip,
What's it higher?
if you feel like, where's the O?
Yeah.
So if you feel like taking a road trip, howtoroadtripamerica.com. It simplifies the planning process and helps you pack, rules and guidelines to follow. Road trips can be amazing, and most people do them the wrong way. So check it out. It's on Amazon. And that's it. Thank you
Yeah.
for having me on
Yeah,
the,
of course,
the
yeah.
show. I finally made it. It was funny.
He's in the background all the time. A lot of our shows.
Finally made it on the show.
Yeah.
Mark told me, he's like, we'll wait until you get bigger to be on the show. 'Cause there was a time I was doing a lot of running and no weights. So finally,
well,
I made it.
I don't know if you guys know this, but he did win the Hercules hold, okay? Little 178-pound John Simos won the Hercules hold at a strongman competition with people who are a lot bigger than he is.
Thank you. It
Yeah.
was I placed 4th overall. It was the Tampa Bay Classic, and weighed in at 173. I don't know if the scale was 100% accurate.
Yeah.
Maybe it was a pound or two off,
Yeah.
but weighed in at 173, and I was in the 198 weight class, and I'll do a lot of heavy holds, which people don't often do. So when it came time to the Hercules hold, it wasn't too bad. I was
Was it
ready
more
for it.
mental than physical, or was it equally parts both?
I'd say equal, but definitely, yeah, I'd say equal, but the mental part obviously
Yeah.
is at least half, because I was holding it and it felt uncomfortable, and I wanted to let go 30 seconds in,
Yeah.
but I was like, nah, this is my thing. I was
Yeah.
like, my holds are my thing. I'm not letting
'Cause
go.
I feel like with like physical strain like that, and like I always equate it to like the last lap of a race for me, swimming wise, because like I tell people all the time, it's like I do not breathe the last lap of a race. They're like, why? It's like takes 30 seconds for oxygen to get to your muscles. You can stay disciplined for less than 30 seconds. You know, you see there how bad do you want it? You're like, you're not going to pass out, and if you do pass out, you're going to make your way to the wall anyway.
Yeah.
So it's just how bad do you want to touch the wall first? And
Oh man,
don't breathe.
that's a whole different. I think you're gonna have to come back. You're gonna have to come back for another show because the mindset is a whole different set of things that we haven't discussed.
Yeah.
And that's definitely something we need to talk about.
You have to be a little crazy to be at the level that we are. So just
yeah.
a little bit. You just
And a willingness to
mental-
accept that.
Yeah. You
Cool.
know, yeah.
All right. Well, if you want to find me, that's going to be my primal being. If you want to look into the training side, that's so. Instagram shut me out of my old account, so I had to create a new one. So it's my primal being. If you're interested in talking about any of the stuff that we talk about, I sort of like to act like the go-between from like the nerds, the people that just want practical application for things. So feel free to reach out to me. But if you want more specificity, I could always hand it over to these guys.
Yep.
Also, if you're interested in the production side of things, I also run. I'm not being rude. The reason why I'm texting is because I have somebody behind the scenes who's managing the cameras, and I have to keep in communication with them to make sure things are good to go.
Yeah.
That's what I'll
You
do.
can find me at MCOX91 on Instagram. I'm also at the same username on Parler, and I'm not using Facebook anymore because I pissed a lot of people off. So, but that's a topic for another discussion.
Gotcha. And where can people find the show?
You can find it on Instagram at Fittest Podcast. And feel free to DM us any questions, any show requests. We'll definitely put this show in the story, and in obviously this episode on YouTube and on the feed post headline. So whatever it's called. What is it called now? Yeah, it's feed, right?
Still, yeah.
Yeah.
And Mark's still technically on Facebook through Fittest. But
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah, that's it. No, yeah. You really don't want to be
Yeah.
friends with me on Facebook right now.
Awesome. All right.
Yeah.
Well, that's
Hey
a wrap.
guys. Sweet.
Chicken legs.
That was a good one. I like
Lost
that.
it, the main camera.
I know,
right
I know.
before the thing.
Yeah, but it's recording here and it's recording audio there, so it's good.
That was a good episode.
Yeah, it was.
Thank you for having me on. That was cool.
I wasn't gonna butcher you.
No, I thought you were. I was
Yeah.
expecting it, but you did it.
I'm not that rude.
Yeah,
I'm
we
not
didn't get
that
to the
rude.
t-shirt chains, but
I forgot about that.
I was waiting for the
Shit.
just like in the middle while I'm talking, or
would've been funny.
next time.
Yeah, next time we'll do that. But,
Take
that
off
was
your
good.
take off your pants. The fuck is he doing?
That would be funny.
Start twerking.
Oh no.
No, don't start twerking.
No.
There's probably nothing there.
Yeah, that was funny. You're like you've been around Sarasota.
I like that you kept your composure. I thought it just like flew by your head.
I was trying to play
Mark
it
and I
off.
were like,